me again, Richard Askam. I think we met earlier on in a different episode of Askam Asks. I'm finding it really hard to say that, actually. It's a bit of a tongue twister to say it's my name, which is how we came up with the title, of course. Welcome along today, and welcome to my guest today, Chris Jordan. Chris and I haven't known each other very long, actually, but when we met in Copenhagen earlier on this year, we seem to strike up quite an instant understanding of each other's view of the world, which I think is always quite fun to have a conversation with anybody that gets what it is that each other's saying. It kind of helps. So I've invited Chris to be my guest today. Chris is a print technology consultant. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, that sounds great.
Excellent. I got it right. That's always a good start to any interview. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Whereabouts in the world are you today?
I'm on the south coast, nice and sunny today, and an amazing April.
Yes. Yes, it's been a bit strange, hasn't it? Really, the obvious stuff aside, that we've sat in a beautiful spring, in the UK. As almost from time to time you could look out the window and think there was nothing wrong with the world, and then you turn the news on and realise that everything is wrong with the world. So, what have you been doing during the lockdown?
Trying to catch up, and after the initial shock, I think talking to the bunch of other consultants that I work with, and really, I think saying to each other, okay, so what do we do now? How where are the opportunities? Where are the crunches going to come? And probably sort of 3 weeks in, started doing weekly conversations as groups and as individuals, trying to help each other and come up with a new plan, because I think we probably need several plans, because I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Really, talking to the guys I talk to in the States, in the Nordics, in the UK, and trying to get people's opinions.
So you say we need several plans, and I don't disagree with that, and often in the same day. At the moment, the world is moving at a breakneck speed, but nobody seems to know where to. If you had your choice of where it would lead to, as far as the print industry is concerned, what does good look like as far as you're concerned?
What does good look like? An interesting question. I think both the suppliers and the printers have to learn to be much better at marketing and selling. What I get is lots of features, but very few benefits from most of the suppliers. And what I get from most of the printers is, I can do it cheaper than that, and I can deliver it faster than that, and the quality will be better. And when I say, so what's your USP? They think I'm thinking about some delivery mechanism rather than what the real benefit of them is. Why should I buy from you? And that's what I think needs to change.
So when we met earlier on this year, which seems like several lifetimes ago now, I asked you the question, what sort of seismic shock would it take across the print industry for those attitudes, those ingrained attitudes to change? And I've seen this in my sort of relatively short time, really sort of commentating on the print industry, but there is a reticence for change that is so ingrained, it felt nigh on impossible. Well, maybe this was the seismic shock. We speculated it would take one of the major manufacturers to go out of business to generate the change. But actually, I think maybe now looking back on that statement, that wasn't enough of a seismic shock. Perhaps turning the world off for 2 or 3 months to see what would happen is that seismic shock. Do you think that's fair point?
Yes, I think it is. If I look at Heidelberg's data of them tracking the print that goes through their presses in the UK, the drop is horrific. And for all the years I've been in the print industry and the technology business, and we've been through a few shocks, nothing compares to this, because it is global, catastrophic for some industries, and I think for up to 50% of both suppliers and printers, not just in my country, in the UK, but across the world, unless they change dramatically, and this isn't just tweaking stuff, this is really dramatic change. Go talk to your biggest competitor, who always, if you lose an order, you lose it to them, and ask them, maybe we could work together, because whoever comes out of this is going to have to be very strong.
That's an interesting point, actually, because one of the things that obviously the optimists like me have been focusing on over the last few weeks is just how, as a species, we've recognized the value in our family, in our friends, in our neighbors. Do you think that same spirit of sort of humankind has extended into the industry yet? We've talked for years about the need to collaborate, but when somebody says, well, go on then, you collaborate first, that's not kind of really what we were looking for. Do you think now that this situation will force that hand?
I would hope so. My fear is, as usual, and often the printers I've visited or some suppliers I've spoken to, they ask for help too late. And my biggest fear is a lot of companies think they can find their way out of this themselves. If it's a small cash flow issue, fine. But if all of a sudden, if you don't know who you sell to, if you sell through another channel and you don't touch the end user directly, either as a printer or as a software developer or as a hardware supplier, you're really in great danger. You need to understand your end user much, much better. And I hope that people come and ask for help to people like you, some of the guys I work with. But the most important thing is they go and ask for help before it's too late.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's very difficult to help them.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And I think, unfortunately, I am old enough to have sailed through 3 or 4 recessions, and the one thing they always have in common is there's winners and losers. But going in, nobody knows who they're going to be. But coming out, there is evidence, to support why the losers were the losers. I know you're not scared of saying what you think, Chris, which is one of the reasons that I invited you on today. So tell me, without naming names or ruining anybody's afternoon, who do you think the winners and losers in this are likely to be from an industry perspective?
Well, there are some obvious areas application-wise. Let's say until there's a vaccine, anybody who can really ramp up, produce PPE, equipment, technology, help the printers produce it is going to win. I think 3D imaging, not just in print, but right the way across the sphere, medical and in many other areas, is really going to excel.
Sorry, that's my dog. We'll chop that bit out. He did that in the previous interview, actually, which is really helpful. So sorry, Chris, carry on.
So I think, and then there are some obvious applications like packaging, pharmaceutical, greetings cards, photo books. But you then sort of say to a printer or a software developer, okay, so let's focus on that area. But what a lot of people and companies then forget is, how do you beat the incumbent? Because any printer who's in the packaging business is really going to want to hang on to that business. They're going to fight like hell to stop any newcomers. And the same with software developers. There are a lot of software developers out there who may say, okay, and now I'll focus on packaging, which is a little late. And I know some of the existing companies that do that are going to be very hard to push over. So that kind of challenge is going to be there.
And if you look at the industry as a whole and the way that it usually behaves, and by that I mean that there is a pattern, of course, that you and I are very familiar with, of the events around the world and the times that those happen, and the people that you're likely to meet, and the plane delays that you're likely to experience. That's all gone now. So, and here we are today sitting at what I believe is the industry's first virtual event, and delighted to be so. But how do you think the situation that we've all experienced over the last few months is going to change that industry going forward? Are we going to see technology used more and travel less? Are you going to see we can't travel around the world shaking each other by the hand at the moment. So largely speaking, how do you see the exhibition side of the industry going forward?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. One that's very close to my heart and many other people that I work with. I think I can't say I have an answer, and everybody I've spoken to so far is struggling because as human beings, we love to network.
Yeah,
that's when all the deals are done. It's not during the demonstrations, it's afterwards. It's in the pub, the bar, the cafe, the restaurant, on the planes, the trains, etc. So you cannot remove that completely, but I think there will be a huge increase in online work. As somebody who's worked from home for more than 20 years, I'm very surprised it's taken this to get us to the point where people say, I'm working from home. Oh, well, I've always done that. So,
yes. Yeah.
I think maybe smaller groups, maybe a lot of the suppliers have to have their own events, which they do today, but they're going to have to be a lot cleverer. So they maybe show complete workflows, maybe they even show some competitors' products, have smaller groups. The big shows, I think, are really going to struggle even when we have a vaccine.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And I think to a large extent, it's possibly brought forward an inevitable end to a few shows as they dwindled away anyway. That you know as well as I do, you could go to one a week if you wanted to.
Yes.
But I said to somebody last week that what will happen as a result of this period of time is finance directors all over the world will look at their productivity against the cost of travel and think, hang on a minute, we haven't spent anything on travel for 3 months. Why are we doing that again? So there'll be some learnings that are forced on us all that the bright ones and the wise ones could see anyway. But sometimes these things have to happen in order to create that sort of end point. I'm interested to hear really what you suspect the shape and size of the industry will look like in the next 5-10 years, because I get the feeling from what you've said that it will be a smaller industry, but potentially a cleverer output. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, if a couple of other industries that I always track are retail, fashion, and automotive. And I see a massive amount of change coming in all of those before COVID-19. But with COVID-19, I think it almost makes you ask the question in a completely different way. I think it's almost like some of the detective novels where you go, suspect everyone. and it's that kind of view. I think you have to look at everything. Your toughest competitors, the people you would think of either buying or working with, and you have to just really open your mind, because I think it will be as disruptive as electric automobiles. And I think our high streets in the UK and in many other countries will not look anything like they do now in 5 to 10 years' time. And I think print will be very, very different. But I hope that sales, business development, real business development, because in my opinion, nobody does business development properly in our industry. I've worked with several of the biggest suppliers who have always backed off. No, I need to sell the hardware. They don't even understand software and how that can help. So when you're selling a $1 million to $5 million press, digital or otherwise, how are you going to help this customer grow their business? Yes, I know you can install a machine. I know it produces fabulous quality at phenomenal speeds, but how do they get the extra business? And that's what is done generally very badly in our industry.
No, that's interesting.
That needs to change.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I think not only does it need to now, Chris, it has to. And that's the difference, really. And we've never experienced anything like this in our lifetime, and hopefully never will again. But I do think what it will hopefully do is create an environment where change can happen, because it has to. And that to me is where my optimism sits. On this particular sunny day. Yes. Chris, it's a pleasure talking to you as always. I really enjoy listening to your thoughts. Give us one little nugget to take away that the audience can take home today and think, do you know what? I haven't thought of it that way. What would you like to see? What would be one thing that would be the win from this awful situation that we've all had to go through?
Well, I think first of all, you need to work out what you've done in the last 3 months, and hopefully you've looked at your business, you've looked at your channels, you've worked out how you can do things better. Probably you need to look at your core team of people. You need to understand your customers a lot better, and if you do not sell directly, somehow you need to get to them. And you need to make multiple plans. You really do. And probably the thing I would do is I would get somebody to do a professional SWOT on you and your company, maybe to get somebody inside the company and somebody outside the company. And really to be honest, because that's what you need to do, where your strengths and weaknesses are, what the opportunities are, and what the threats are. The threat is kind of obvious, but actually I don't think it is. And then you need to produce a plan or multiple plans and start being flexible.
Well, I've only got one plan, Chris, which is to meet up with you for a beer sometime soon, somewhere. I don't mind where, don't mind when. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I can't shake your hand, so we'll do the elbows.
Yeah, we'll do that.
There we go. So lovely to see you. Thank you for taking the time with us today, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere soon.